Okay, we might as well get started. All right, first of all, section 4 was solving polynomial equations in factored form. So hopefully you picked up on that. Yesterday you had that quiz 8.3 and that just about everybody turned it in, just a couple guys. And section 3, the special product. All right.
Your mic's not working.
Now, today we start a new topic. Up to this point, we have been multiplying things. And then we hit the section on solving in factored form. That is what we're going to eventually be doing here, is setting up equations. Right now, we just have expressions. These are called quadratic trinomials. We have to learn how to take a quadratic trinomial and factor it into two binomials, so that when we do have an equation equal to 0, we can set each binomial equal to 0 and solve it. So what you're learning here is how to take a trinomial and write it as a product. That's what factoring is. Writing as a product of two binomials. So here's how it works. We're going to look at what you do when the last number is positive is different than what you do when the last number is negative. So we'll start with the last numbers being positive. We need to make this into two binomials. Here's the thing. 8.5 says factor x squared plus bx plus c. The a that normally is here is always a 1. So the type you're doing, you always start with a 1x squared, which means it's got to be 1x with 1x in the two binomials. They all have to start with x and x. When you get a number like 6x squared, then the two numbers are going to be things like 6x and 1x or 2x and 3x. And there's going to be choices you have to make. Here, these are the easier ones. They have to be 1x and 1x. Now, when you look at multiplying, the next thing we do is the outer and the inner. And then we do the last. The two numbers here have to multiply to this number, 6. Our two numbers here have to multiply to 6. And the outer and the inner have to add to the middle term, 5. So what you're going to do is ask the question, what two numbers multiply to 6 and add to 5? Give me the answer. What two numbers multiply to 6 and add to 5?
2 and 3.
2 and 3.
2 and 3. And so we're going to put a 2 and a 3. And here's what we know. It's either got to be a plus with a plus, so that product's a plus 6, or a minus with a minus would make it a plus 6. But if it's a minus with a minus, the outer and the inner would be a minus. We want it to be a plus by looking at the middle term. So that's what tells us it must be plus and plus. And there we have it, x plus 2 times x plus 3. And you should always take a second to check your answer. FOIL this. You get x squared plus 3x plus 2x is plus 5x, and then plus 6. So we know we're correct. You should always get every one of these problems correct, because you can always check your answer. All right, so here's the procedure. Find two numbers that multiply to 8, and we're going to say add to 6. We're not going to look at the negative. Now, in delta math, they do it a little differently. I'd like you to learn how I'm teaching it. We want two numbers to multiply to 8 and add to 6, and then we'll know, since that's a minus, it's got to be a minus and a minus. We know it's got to be x and x. So now what two numbers multiply to 8 and add to 6?
2 and 4.
2 and 4. So it's got to be a 2 and a 4. And these two signs have to be the same to get the plus 8. They have to be whatever the middle sign is. So it's got to be minus and minus. That's how we're going to determine the sign. We do that last. We figure out the sign. And so if you check it out, you get x squared minus 4 minus 2 is minus 6x, and then plus 8. So we know we have it right. All right? Next one. Signs have to be the same to get a plus 15, and they're both going to be pluses, aren't they? So we know it's going to be x and x, and it's going to be plus and plus. What two numbers multiply to 15 and add to 8?
5 and 3.
5 and 3. And now we know we have it. There's your x squared, plus 3 and 5 is 8x, plus 15. All right? These aren't too bad. This next one, you know, is x and x.
Mr. Anselm,
Signs have to be the same because it's positive. They both have to be minuses. And now, what two numbers multiply to 28 and add to 11?
7, 4.
4 and
7.
what? 7. And there's your minus 7, minus 4 is minus 11, and there's your plus 28.
Can you please move your
So that's
camera down
how
a little
you
bit?
do the problems when the last number's a positive. Two numbers that multiply to the last number and add to the middle. Okay? We got that. Nice and simple. Now, here's the next type. The last number's negative. If the last number's negative, one of the signs is going to have to be plus, and one of the signs is going to have to be minus. We're going to have to do a trial and error to decide if it's plus minus or minus plus. That's going to make a difference. So again, it's got to be x and x. This time, what we're going to do is we work with the absolute value of this number. We say, look at 8. We don't look at negative 8, we look at 8. And this time we say, what two numbers multiply to 8 and differ by 2? The absolute value of the middle number. What two numbers multiply to 8 and differ by 2? 4 and 2. And so we're getting a 4 and a 2. Now, we said to get a negative 8, one of these is plus and one of these is minus. Is it plus minus or is it minus plus? You simply trial and error. If it were plus minus, you would have plus 4 and minus 2, which would give you plus 2. So that is what it must be. It must be plus minus, because that gives you the plus 4 and the minus 2 gives you the plus 2. So you just do trial and error. You try plus minus, you try minus plus, and you see which one works. That's the way I teach this. They do it a little different in Delta Math. Okay, next one, we have a minus 15. So we got x and x. And again, you take the absolute value, you take positive 15. And you say, what two numbers multiply to 15 and differ by positive 2? You always work with the absolute value. You just want two numbers to multiply to 15 that differ by 2. And that would be what? 5 and 3, right? 5 and 3. And so it doesn't matter which one you put in which binomial, but now, is it plus minus or is it minus plus? If we try plus with the minus, you'd have plus 5 and minus 3 would be a plus 2. So that doesn't work, so it must be a minus with a plus, because that gives you minus 5 and plus 3 is minus 2. So you get the signs by trial and error. That's how we do them. Are you catching on? So with the positive last number, the two numbers multiplied to the last number and added to the middle. With a negative last number, they multiply to the last number, the absolute value, and they differ by the middle. So let's try this next one. X squared plus 2x minus 24. So we get x and x. And again, we work with plus 24. What two numbers multiply to 24 and differ by 2? What are they?
6 and 4.
6 and 4. So we write the 6 and a 4. It doesn't matter if you write 6, 4, 4, 6. But what matters now, is it plus minus or is it minus plus? Check it out. Check plus minus. That would give you plus 6 and a minus 4 would give you the plus 2. So it must be plus minus. So the first one we checked out worked. You simply have to put the signs in and check it out. Okay? And finally, the last one here. Again, two numbers, so we have x and x, that multiply to 24 and differ by 5. Remember, we're working with the absolute values. Everything's positive. So what two numbers multiply to 24 and differ by 5?
8 and 3.
8 and 3. And so we have an 8, we have a 3, and now is it plus minus or minus plus?
Plus minus.
Somebody tell me.
Minus plus.
Plus minus.
Right. It's minus plus. That gives you the plus 3, and the minus 8 gives you the minus 5. All right? So that's factoring trinomials, quadratic trinomials, starting with a 1. That's what you're going to be doing. We have 4 Delta math assignments dealing with this material, where we're just given trinomials and you're going to be factoring. Now, there's couple other problems I want to look at. So hopefully we picked up on all of those. Now I want to solve an equation, x squared plus 13x plus 30 equal to 0. This time we have an equation and we need to solve for x that makes that true. All right, knock it off. We need to find the solutions to this equation. How in the world are we going to solve this for x when it's in this form? We can't do it. What did we just get done practicing? Taking these trinomials and writing them as a product of binomials. So you want to factor this into 2 binomials that are set equal to 0. Then you're using the method of section 4, where you take each factor equal to 0 and you'll get your 2 solutions. So to solve this equation, we need to factor it. And so we know it's x and x. We want 2 numbers that multiply to 30. And since this is positive, add to 13. What 2 numbers multiply to 30 and add to 13? What are they?
10 and 3.
3 and
10
10.
and
3.
3. And so we want a 10 and a 3. And we know the middle sign's a plus. So we get this. Now we factored it. Now do you remember how to solve this thing? You take the x plus 10, set it equal to 0, and get x equals negative 10. You take the x plus 3, set it equal to 0, and get x equals negative 3. All right, you see it? So we'll learn how to factor so that we now can solve. You have to solve it by factoring it, and then setting your factors equal to 0. Let's do another one. This one, let's make it x squared plus 2x minus 3 equal to 0. And so we need to factor it and set it equal to 0. So we have x and x. It's a negative 3. So we want 2 numbers to multiply to 3 and differ by 2. And of course, it's what? 1 and 3. So it's a 1 and a 3. And now, this is real important. Is it minus plus or is it plus minus? Take a look at it.
Minus plus.
It's minus plus because that gives you plus 3x and minus 1x is plus 2x. And there's your minus 3. And now you take x minus 1 equal to 0 and get x equals 1. You take x plus 3 equal to 0 and get x equals -3. All right, we'll do one last one. We'll do one more negative one here. X squared minus 4x minus 12 equal to 0. So now we need to factor it. We get x and x. It's a -12, so we want two numbers to multiply to 12 and differ by 4. What two numbers multiply to 12 and differ by 4?
6 and 2.
6 and
2.
what?
2.
6 and 2. Okay, and now again, it's a -12. So it's either plus minus or minus plus. Who knows what it's going to be? It's got to be the minus plus, doesn't it? So you get your minus 6x and plus 2x is the minus 4x in the middle. And this one then is going to give you a 6, and this one's going to give you a -2. All right? Do we think we have this?
Yes.
Yep.